Hi guys, I got a very nice video here about a new behavior that I created, which is terrain texture sounds. Now, who would have thought textures could make sounds, but now they can. So I've created under the camera. You add a new behavior as you do. I've got two versions, one based on range and one based on distance. I think the range one is probably your best bet by default. They work very similar. Okay, so you've got the step length. You've got how often it runs, every 200 milliseconds. You just link the terrain when you add it. This will be blank, so link the terrain in. There's the terrain. And now this sound node walk, that's the sound node you need to create. You need to add a sound node, just put it onto the up here somewhere under. You can put it to attach it to the camera, or you can just leave it by itself. So that's where the sound will play. We're not using the master volume, controlling the master volume. We've got our own individual sound volume based on this walk node here. Now, default sound is if it can't find any sound in the data for whatever reason, it'll play the default sound. And all the sounds have to be 5 characters long. So dirt is 4, so I've added an underscore. I've added a little underscore there, so that's 5, because all the sounds and have to match the last 5 characters of the name of the texture. That's how they're worked out. So all the sounds have to exactly match the name of the texture. That is the last 5 characters of the name of the texture. It has to match, otherwise it won't play. So there's dirt there, underscore. There's 5 characters, and the numbers at the end, they're separately randomly calculated and added in, so you don't just exclude that. So notice how that's ATCH2 and then 1, and the same thing 2 and same thing 3. Well, that relates to the actual name of the texture on the terrain. There's 2 plants there. So there's grass patch, so that the last 5 will be just called patch. On this one, see, it's called patch 2. That's why the last 5 characters will be called ATCH2. Alright, so you can actually change the names of the sounds to match the textures, or you can just change the names of the actual textures so it match the sounds. Either way, you've got to match either way. I think just change the texture names a lot easier. But by default, these are the ones that will come into the game engine. Similar to this. One's very similar to this. I've made account for all of that to pick up the default ones as well. So for example, this sandy one I've added in. It's 5 digits, called just sandy.png. So you exclude the extension .png or JPEG. You can just get the name. And that's the name of the sound that you want to put in there. So there's sandy 1, 2, and 3. So if they match up, it'll find it and play the sound. So yeah, so okay, so here's the sort of default CopperCube scene, 68,000 polygons. I think that's the standard size. So back to the behavior, variations. See that sound variations? There's 3 at the moment. You can add more the merrier, but I've only got 3 for now. So 1, 2, and 3. Each sound has got 3 variations that I've created. It's quite a nice few sounds there actually I've put for you. The file type of the sounds, it needs to know that it's .ogg, so they have to be all the same too, by the way. You can use whatever you want, you know, wave and that sort of thing. OGG is not too bad. Maximum volume, if you want to have a certain maximum volume for the walking sounds compared to other things, you can put that here. Here's an override. If you've got too much one sound playing in a certain area and you want to add a little bit of other stuff in there without having to retexture it, or maybe you can't retexture it, you can put an override. Click on that and say, okay, I want to override what with what. In this case, grass with patch. So if it finds a lot of grass, add more patches in. Patch will be, it's related, like I said, patch is related back to these. It actually picks up the position of these animated textures, which is pretty cool, isn't it? It plays the sound accordingly, which is actually really cool. Who would have thought that would do that? That's an extra bonus that you get, that it's actually picking up the position of these plants and playing a sound to match that. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. It's not just the textures only, it's also the animated plants. As long as it's put underneath the terrain in that particular way that it likes, it'll be able to do it. Okay, so and I'll show you that later. And also print results. If you just want to show the results on screen, then just tick that. If you want to stop it, just untick it. Okay, so alright, so on startup it needs to create all the data. So it looks at all the information, creates a table, so it might take just a little bit of time. So we can publish that. So in this case it doesn't take too long because it's pretty small level, but big levels will take a while. Okay, so it's telling you the sound, what sound is playing, and what number of the three of the variations that you've got. Back on the grass, so that's the grass sound. So it will play grass when you're on grass, and when you walk through these patches of leaves, it'll add a little bit more of that in there. It won't be as much as you expect. That's why you can put an override. So at the moment it's all grass. Okay, there's a few more patches. It's picked up a few patches here and there. Why not all the time? It's just got to do with the I think it's the data for this particular one. This one's based on range, so it's based on the faces. Every single face on the whole level is looked at, and the texture on it. So if it's able to find it, it'll play that sound. If not, it may find that the other animated textures instead and then play that. But it won't be as often as you might like. That's why I've got an override. Whereas with the other version I've got, which is based on distance, it'll pick up these animated textures a lot. Pretty much all the time, actually. So that ATCH2, that's patch 2. Number 1, patch 2, 3, yeah, so patch 2, they're picking up a lot of patches now. And then grass, okay. So if it's only rock, it'll play rock. If it's only grass, it'll only play glass. Okay, it's a little bit of delay before it kicks in the sound. That's just how it runs. Maybe it's got to do with the timing every 200 milliseconds. If you want to knock that to the end of 100 milliseconds, you can. It'll run a little bit more accurately. So there's the sand. So it picked up the sandy. But then you need to change the step length because it'll run too fast then. So yeah, so they sort of work together, the step length and the speed that it runs at. Okay. Nice bit of rocky walking sounds. And it's also got falling sounds, so it increases the volume when it reaches sort of an impact, or it calculates some sort of an impact, that is. It's not highly accurate, but it's better than nothing. See that brown? Brown relates to the default texture for rocks or side of the hills, which is probably meant to be sort of dirt actually, but I've overridden it with another texture with the same name. Okay, let's go up here and fall off the edge and see how that works. So on the whole, this does work pretty good. This one overall is, I think, the better one. So you're walking through a few plants. It won't always pick all of them up, just occasionally. Okay, let's go down here. Okay, so it made a bit of a falling sound there. And it picks up the sound where you fall on the grass, or if you fall on the rock, it'll play the rock sound louder, like you're falling on the rock. So that works good. On the whole, pretty decent. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, isn't it? Walking sounds on terrain. No one's ever done this, I don't think. Yeah. Yep. Some pretty decent walking sounds added in there for you. Let's go for a bit of a... We'll jump, we'll go down onto the rock. It should play the rock sound as you land. Oh, not quite. Well, we hit some bushes. Haha. Okay, we'll walk around a bit to make sure that it does pick up all the sounds throughout the whole level. This is spent over a week working on numerous revisions for this. I was using a different method originally. I was using the buffer number, but the buffer number does not always coincide with the actual texture, like you might think. So I couldn't actually use it. It works about 80 to 90% of the time, but not 100% of the time. Yeah, so that works pretty good. So notice, there's a lot of patch. It's all patch sounds coming up here. Some places it plays a lot of the patch sound, and other places it play a lot of the grass sounds, depending on. I'm not sure why that does that, but it does it. Even if you have grass everywhere on both places. But there's similar sounds anyway, so I guess it's not too bad. Alright, so for example, if you thought that has too much grassy sounds in it, you want a bit of dirt sounds. Okay, tick on the override. Override what? We'll override the grass with, let's make it, I guess, the dirt underscore, because it's got to be 5 characters long. Okay, so play that. There's a dirt sound. So it's a 50% override. It'll do a random calculation. If it finds it fits in a certain 50% band and there's grass playing, then it will play a dirt sound. And it'll pick up one of 3 different dirt sounds too. So, yeah, it's not bad. Alright, that explains that one. Now I'll just load up the other behavior, so I just remove that, click on, so that's the range one. Now the distance one, you'll see it's actually, they're both very similar, so they're both very good actually. This one, it's just a little bit different. You can play with it and see what you like as the difference. It's got a minimum distance, this one, because it's based on distance. The other one was based on range. It means you have to be over the actual face to play the sound that's on that face. Whereas this one is different. It'll pick up the next different sound that's nearest if it's under this range of 10 units distance. Once again, all the rest of it's the same. Yeah, so try that one. This one will play the actual, it'll have a little higher tendency to pick up the actual animated textures, these plants, a lot more than the last one, than the range one. You may need to override it because it'll actually pick it up so much. It's all picking up patch, see, patch, 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 2 different patches, it's picking up both of them. Okay, let's go back over here, we'll walk on the rock and the grass separately so you can see that it does segregate the two. See, ATCH2, that's patch 2. So, yep, if it's only rock, it'll just play the rock. As soon as you hit the bushes, it'll play the bushes. There's the patch and bushes sound with a bit of grass occasionally. Alright, what's this? This is grass, that's only playing grass. Yep. Okay, it's picking up, so it's very similar to the last one. The only difference with this one is it tends to alternate the sound a lot more. You might like that, you might not. I've made it that way on purpose because otherwise it doesn't always pick up this sand desert sound on top of the rock. It'll just keep playing the rock and not the sand. So I've changed it to say if it's different sound within that minimum distance from what you've got, then pick that up and use that instead. Yeah, okay. This is playing like those the bushes sound, like almost all the time, rather than the grass. It'll pick up a bit of the grass here and there. So it's a bit of the other way around from the last one, actually. But you can override too many patch sounds with grass or dirt, whatever you want. Okay, let's jump off the edge and check that as well. See, that's working on the rock. It's still picking up some grass sounds because it's within certain distance. You can change that distance, by the way. If it's picking up too many surrounding sounds not close enough, you can just reduce that distance. Not recommended to make it any bigger than 10 though, I don't think. See, that's picking up the patch sounds, which is actually good. When you're near it, it picks it up. Back on the sand, back on the rock, back in the bushes, which is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. This one uses a lot more data than the last one, so if you're going to use it for large levels, you may have issues with it. Hey, here we go, fall sound. Okay, we got it. Yeah, so overall, I think the range one is probably your better bet overall, especially for performance. Because you can override some of the sounds that are not playing so much with other things anyway. For example, and this one can be overridden too if it's playing too many bushes sounds. So you've got patch and patch 2C playing a lot, pretty much exclusively. So if that's too much, I think it is, then we can just override it. See that? Override the patch with the grass, give it a bit more grassy sound. So now we've got more grass sounds mixed in with the bushes sound, the patch 1 and 2. I think that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, see, that sort of alternates the sound a little bit too much. There's probably there's coding that can go into that to fix that, but let me know if you think that should be fixed. Yeah, so it works pretty good. Yeah, so I'm going to try and use this in my game. I'm going to have large levels, so I'm going to have to use the range one. And I've tried to optimize the data to keep it low as possible, but it's still huge amount of information. Yeah, this is just the local data. Every 200 milliseconds it's alternating over this data. Yeah. Okay, this is the positional data that first looks at 650,000. This is the level version. The distance version is double that. It's 1.1 million. Every 1,000 milliseconds, every second, it'll filter that information into your local data, because the information is just so huge, and it's the local data gets iterated over every 200 milliseconds to check for where you are in the level. And in some cases, if you're running really fast, you might actually, it may not have updated in time to pick up the new set of data in your local area, and it may not play the appropriate sounds. That's something that may need to be tweaked. Let me know if that's a problem. I can make a variable to have that adjustable. So this is the local data, 22,000. That's characters, not actual records. So that's actual characters. So it's probably like, I don't know, 6,000, yeah, records or something like that. Yeah, so it works pretty good. Yeah, it's just a lot of data that you have to go through, obviously. Yeah, and you can put whatever animated textures and play the sounds linked to it, which is actually really cool. That's an extra added bonus. Yeah, works pretty good, I think. That's Any questions, let us know. I'm going to put this on itch.io. You can get it as little as $1. Please remember, I've spent over a week working on this, probably closer to 2 weeks, refining it, and because I had issues with it in the beginning, using the wrong method. But yeah, so, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know how you think and how it's working for you. Cheers.